we are going to organize the data by a year and then by the month, and then we'll see all of the data in it. So we'll just save that for a default, and then we want to just restart the server because we made changes to how we wanted to set it up. We've made it into an ASAM ODS server. So I just need to wait a moment, and then I need to restart it. Now I need to manually restart it because we don't want to assume that we can just restart when you click OK. All right, and so now I can bring up Diadem. This is my client, and this is how I'm going to view my data. We have different modes, so right now, this is the data that is on my computer, and you can see all of that measurement data. You can see the very, very tiny scroll bar. It's just listed there in one big column. What I can do is connect to a server machine, and we have that engine data here. And instead of this view, what I see is the year, and then the month, and then depending on when the data was collected, that's when the data appears. But it's not just a list of the data files, it is an organized view. Now, this isn't the most helpful for me in terms of looking at data. So what I can do is come back to my data finder server, come back to the ASAM ODS option, and say I want a custom view. I want to look at my data in a new way. So let me get rid of my last example, and I can say let's create a new level. Now remember, I pointed out that all of the files had this metadata saved to it. So now what I can do is say, let's build a custom view. I want to know where the data was collected first. Then I want to know who ran the tests. We'll go by last name because we have first name and last name. Then the next thing I want to know is the type of fuel that they used, because some were testing diesel engines, some were testing gas, hybrid or hydrogen, etc. And for now, we'll just say that's how I want to view my data. Now we can preview it and just see what it looks like. So instead of seeing the year and the month and where the data resides, what I see instead is the location the data was collected, the name of the person who collected data, so Aachen is in Germany, so all of these are German last names, and then we can expand and see what type of test someone took. And so for me, that looks okay. I say okay, I apply the data model, and again, because I'm making changes to the server, I just need to make sure that I restart my server. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it, and then start it, and then I'm going to go ahead and refresh my connection to the server, just to make sure that the changes are applied. And so now you can see that that same view is here, and what I can do is then even filter further. So we have the different fuel types, and you can see that I have a query up here, and I say, well, I only want to see the hydrogen test. So I can go ahead and filter, and you can see a lot of the names went away because they did not do a hydrogen test on their engine. If I take the filter away, you can see the names come back, but again, just to show you, all of these, the diesel and natural gas, if I filter it, they disappear. And so with ASAM ODS, it's a very powerful way to organize, structure, and find the data that you then need to analyze.
Stephanie,
can I give a short, explanation of your demo for Korean customers? 지금 이제 보신 그 아삼 ODS 데모를 보여드렸는데요. 이 아삼 ODS 그 데모의 가장 큰 차이점은 지금 보신 것처럼 우리가 윈도우즈에서 파일의 이름, 파일 사이즈, 작성 일자 이런 걸로 구분해서 볼 수 있었는데 지금 보시는 것처럼 어느 도시에서 테스트를 했는지 또 어떤 연료를 가지고 테스트했는지 파일 아키텍처를 그 데이터베이스에 서치하는 파일 구조를 아예 바꿔버립니다. 그래서 작업할 때 많은 엔지니어들이 특히 연비 개선이라든지 여러 수백 명의 엔지니어들이 테스트한 데이터들을 명확하게 관리하고 어떤 특정한 데이터들을 볼 때 상당히 효율적으로 보실 수가 있는 거죠. 그리고 또 한 가지 장점은 이 아삼 ODS는 그 데이터베이스처럼 이 데이터를 우리가 작성한 파일 데이터들을 데이터베이스에 넣어서 관리하는 게 아니라 그 파일은 그대로 있습니다. 그대로 있고 단지 그 파일들을 관리하는 것만 그 ASAM ODS 관리하기 때문에 훨씬 속도면이나 또 비용 면에서도 효율적입니다. 그래서 계속해서 추가적인 내용들을 계속 설명을 드리겠습니다.
Alright, and so then the last thing I wanted to talk about was a few case studies. The first case study that I have for you is from Toyota. Toyota is doing engine testing as well, and the demonstration that I saw you is almost exactly what they are doing with ASAM ODS. They are taking engine data from their Japan office and their Belgian office and comparing it against each other to find the most efficient engines for their cars. They use our data finder server and our DDM client for their solution. And they chose us because we offer a flexibility that other vendors just don't provide. And they're very happy with what they've been able to do and the efficiencies that they've seen by switching to an ASAM ODS solution. The next case study that I have is from Cummins. This is a diesel manufacturer from the United States. They have global operations as well, but I'm more familiar with the United States operations. And so what they had was a variety of data sources coming in. So they had engine testing, simulations, and MATLAB data. So they were baked data solutions, and that was the variety. They had analysis that was built by themselves, and they did not update it very frequently. It was hard to maintain, and they often found that they couldn't perform the analysis they wanted because it wasn't built into their tool. And it took them 3 weeks to collect the data and analyze it. They knew that they needed to reduce the amount of time that it was taking them to analyze the data because of upcoming pressures to make their engines more efficient. So they knew that this was the amount of data that they were collecting, but with their current process, they were only analyzing and looking at half of their data. They were losing a lot of value that the data was trying to tell them because they realized that the tools that they were using were not efficient and they had too many different file formats that had custom routines. But like I said, within the next 2 or 3 years, they are expecting a 10 times increase in the amount of data that they are collecting. They're getting pressure from the United States government and from our Environmental Protection Agency to make their engines as fuel efficient and robust as possible. And so the problem that they're facing is how do they go from analyzing half of the data that they're collecting now and essentially multiplying that by 20x to analyze all of the data that's coming into the future. So this is the data flow that they had before. You can see the MATLAB process, the engine test, and the combustion simulation. It took them 1 week to collect the data from all of the sources. But then you can see that in order to analyze the data, it was a very complex process to convert the data to a similar format so that all of the data could be analyzed by a single tool that was built out of Excel. But they had problems with this too because they were collecting large amounts of data, and Excel has limitations such as how many points you can use in a formula, or depending on your memory, how many plots or points you can plot in a graph. So they knew that they were losing a lot of value, and it took 2 weeks to convert the data and run the analysis in their Excel. So then what they did was they consulted us, and what we did was we created a data plugin for each of their file or their test systems out there. We have one data plugin that performs the conversion, and all of that data is put into a centralized location. We can then use a single DDM client to run the custom analysis for each of the 3 different test areas, and we can generate reports and output any information that we need. And you can see that with Cummins, they had, instead of spending 2 weeks analyzing and converting their data, we reduced that to 4 hours. And overall, that was a 90% improvement in their process, and they were able to create repeatable automated tasks. And one thing that they really wanted that they didn't realize DDM could help them do is the free-form analysis. So I told you because they were using Excel, it was locked. with DIADM, they can just look at the data and say, I want to zoom in on this area and run a filter on only these points. They were able to do that now. So that was some pretty amazing success stories that we've seen with the Data Finder solution. And so just to wrap things up, I just wanted to reiterate that ASAM ODS is an automotive standard for managing and analyzing data, and our NI platform covers this with the Data Finder Server Edition and DIADM. You can get a system running in a short amount of time, and you can even evaluate the software to see if it's a good fit for you. And then another thing that ASAM ODS does is allows you to create those very custom views so that way you can get the most value from your data. If you want to learn more, you can go to ni.com/ASAMODS, and I can be in the back if there are any questions. So, thank you.
질문 있으신지요? 그럼 먼저 준비된 질문을 몇 가지 스테파니